Hello YouTube. In this tutorial, we learn a way to simulate Marvelous Designer simulations with Blender. The original idea belongs to Vincent. I just tried to teach the way I found to simulate Marvelous Designer effects within Blender. The tutorial consists of two parts. In the first part, we learn the simulation, and in the second part, we learn to add materials and lights. To watch the full version, you can join my Patreon and have access to a lot of tutorials and Blender files for free. Before we dive into our simulation, I show you one of my tries. As you can see, the wrinkles are great, but I guess we can create something better together. Marvelous Designer is a tool for cloth simulation. You can use it for any kind of cloth simulation, but I still think Blender has a lot of potential in case you want to create cool simulations. However, the simulation is a bit slower on Blender compared to Marvelous Designer. Aside from that, the simulation is a bit old on Blender, while Cinema 4D recently improved the simulation system a lot. I made a copy of my first try, a reference. The collision setup is very simple. We want the cloth falls over some spheres and also touches the ground. So, I added two spheres and a plane. For spheres and plane, I had to increase the friction value of the collision modifier a lot. We don't want out cloth slips or moves around when it falls over the spheres. Also, I increased the dampening amount, so the cloth will lose some of its energy as soon as the collision happens. We dive into these modifiers later on. We add a plane, and also we need to increase the segments along. This plane will act as our cloth object. We need to make sure the plane covers the whole scene, so we increase the X and Y scale of our plane. Subdivide the plane 100 times, and then subdivide it once more. Another thing we need to do is selecting some edges. So these edges would direct which parts shrink down when we run our simulation. There is nothing to explain here but select some edges that have a relatively good distance from each other, because we want to emphasize the wrinkles in between the edges. The other thing is, we assign these edges to a vertex group, but each edge must have a different weight if you want some parts be shrank more. The weight value we'll use here will multiply the amount for shrinking factor. We have selected 3 edges. The one at the bottom will be shrank more as the weight value is set to 1 for this edge, but the other stored edges will be shrank less. Now we assign a cloth modifier to our planet. The one you have seen earlier was using some custom parameters, but I want to use the default values to see if we get something even more interesting. We just increase the quality steps as we want the cloth simulation be more accurate. Then we open the property weights to use our vertex group to direct the shrinking factor value. I wish they could put it under the shrinking factor field inside the shape tab. Let me explain something once more. The shrinking value is set to 0.6. Only the bottom edge will be affected by this value 100. The other edges will be shrank less as we used a lower value for vertex weight. Now we must enable self-collision. Increase the quality steps to 5 and set the self-collision distance to a low value like 0.1. We have a lot of polygons, and if we use the default value, the result would be poorly close to Marvelous Designer and simulation would be terrible. Let's play the simulation and see the result. As you can see, the simulation is super slow. I have to bake the simulation and hopefully it's good. The reason I can mention for slow simulation is because my system as I am recording the video. Also, I guess I have subdivided the plane a lot. The other reason might be because of increasing the quality steps for cloth simulation. Let's bake the animation and see the result. Baking is done. The result is great even if I tried the simulation once. We might need to increase the scale of the plane a bit to have more cloth around the spheres. We can see our 3 wrinkles. Just the one edge at the top is a bit flat since the cloth falls over the spheres and it gets stretched. Also, it uses a very low weight among the other edges. Aside from that, everything is great and super marvelously. Let's add a subdivision modifier to smooth out the wrinkles. Now we need to add a solidify modifier to add thickness to our cloth. The first part is done here. Thanks for watching this tutorial. You can download the Blender file from my Patreon. Catch you in the next tutorial.